regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. I am glad you're with us on the program today. We're going to be talking about some of the latest asinine comments from Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner, blaming the Second Amendment for the shooting in Philadelphia on Monday night, and ignoring his own role in prosecuting crimes in Philadelphia. I mean, I would say he's the district attorney. He has the primary role in prosecuting violent crimes in Philadelphia. We'll get to that in just 1 second. Before we do, Biden's America, it's crushing us. You've got companies laying off tens of thousands of workers, one after the other. Americans working two jobs just to get by. Inflation pushing hardworking families to the brink. I can tell you, I went to the grocery store yesterday afternoon, and it hurts. And a digital dollar could be coming down the pipeline to completely destroy our way of life. The truth is, you need a plan. You know it, and I know it. And that's why you should call Goldco, so you can diversify your savings and investments with gold and silver before things get worse. They're a 6-time Inc. 5000 winner, 2022 Company of the Year, with thousands of 5-star reviews, and they've helped people like you and me place over $1 billion in gold and silver. They're offering up to $10,000 in free silver while supplies last, and if you call them today, qualified callers will get a free Ronald Reagan half-ounce silver coin. So don't wait. Call Goldco at 855-412-3806 today. That's 855-412-3806. All right, so let's talk about Mr. Larry Krasner, the district attorney there in Philadelphia. Speaking on Wednesday, Krasner said that politicians need to swear off what he called an absurd Second Amendment interpretation. Yeah, calling on would-be lawmakers or calling on lawmakers to abandon what he says is an absurd interpretation of the Second Amendment. As the Washington Examiner wrote, gun control laws in the city have been stymied by Pennsylvania's preemption laws, which prevent Philadelphia from instituting gun reform. The fight against these preemptive laws will continue, according to Krasner. Now, we've talked a lot about firearms preemption and the attack on firearms preemption by the anti-gunners here on Cam and Company for, years now. Cities from Columbus, Cincinnati, down in Florida, there was a legal challenge to that state's preemption law. Colorado Democrats repealed the state's preemption law a couple of years ago. And this is by design for the gun control groups. It's not about giving localities the ability to set reasonable gun laws of their own. We're talking about misdemeanor ordinances. So the fact or the argument that adding another misdemeanor crime when we're trying to combat violent felonies is somehow going to make a difference, I don't buy it. This is about establishing a patchwork quilt of gun laws across any given state that make it very difficult for responsible gun owners to know what the law is. And it makes it very easy to run afoul of those local laws. Now, a misdemeanor offense, I don't think is going to stop a career criminal from going on to commit more violent crimes. But again, responsible gun owners, we don't want a misdemeanor on our record, right? So this has a chilling effect on our Second Amendment rights, even beyond even before we get into the specifics of what types of gun control laws cities are trying to put in place. In Indianapolis, for example, Mayor Joe Hogsett and the city council set to approve a number of local ordinances that cannot be enforced unless or until Indiana repeals its firearm preemption law. But they're calling for a ban on so-called assault weapons. They're calling for a requirement that individuals have a concealed carry license in order to lawfully carry concealed in the city of Indianapolis, despite the fact that the state of Indiana is a constitutional carry state. They want storage requirements. They're doing that in Columbus, Ohio as well. Again, all of these efforts are aimed at legal gun owners, right? It's not like you're putting a new misdemeanor offense on the books that makes it a crime to shoot somebody. That's already a felony offense, right? So again, I reject the idea that firearms preemption is somehow going to make Philadelphia a safer place. Colorado has seen its violent crime rate continue to increase after preemption was repealed. Because again, the types of gun laws that cities like Philadelphia or Boulder, Colorado, put in place after preemption goes away aren't aimed at violent criminals. They're aimed at you and me. and Philadelphia residents who might want to carry a firearm to protect themselves. Now, Krasner went on to say, quote, "It is time for this legislature and, frankly, legislatures across the country to swear off their addiction to NRA money and to swear off their addiction to this gun fetish that is really only shared by moderate quantity of the U.S. population." Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that our rights were based on popularity polls. Huh. That's interesting. I wonder what policies are in place in Philadelphia that are supported by a moderate portion of the population of the United States. Maybe even Larry Krasner's own crime-fighting strategy that we'll get to in a second. So again, we see the delegitimization of our right to keep and bear arms on the part of individuals like Krasner, right? If you are a gun owner, already you're in the minority, not just in terms of the population, which is true, right? About 43% of households in the United States have a firearm or more than one in their homes. That number, by the way, is, ping-ponged up and down a little bit over the decades, but it's basically stayed the same. So almost half of the country lives in a apartment or a home or wherever, a yurt, where there is a firearm. Now, that's not a majority. It's awfully close. And again, we have the right to keep and bear arms in this country. That right was not created by the NRA. It was not created by modern-day politicians. It was not created out of thin air by the Supreme Court. It's right there in the text of the Bill of Rights. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Krasner also said that most citizens, quote, support reasonable gun regulation akin to car regulation. He said it's time for people who are running for office to swear off NRA money, to swear off gun lobby money, to swear off this absurd interpretation of the Second Amendment that's been put out there by militias, much of it untrue. Like Krasner's statement, much of it untrue. By the way, notice he didn't say swear off the gun control lobby's money, right? Even though they're spending, in some cases, outspending the pro-Second Amendment groups in elections. But that's different, right? Because again, according to Krasner, all they're wanting is reasonable common sense measures that would, again, turn responsible gun owners into criminals overnight. But again, according to Krasner, the issue here is a lack of gun laws. Lack of gun laws in Philadelphia, lack of gun laws at the state level in Pennsylvania, lack of gun laws at the federal level in Washington, D.C. If only we had more laws, according to Larry Krasner, well, the shootings like what we saw on Monday wouldn't happen. Krasner even said, frankly, it's time for the Supreme Court to cut it out. This should not be a country of guns. It should be a country of people, living people. And it is. A country in which a lot of living people own an awful lot of firearms because, again, they have the right to do so. Now, what Larry Krasner didn't talk about in all of his harumphing about our right to keep and bear arms is what he's doing as the district attorney in Philadelphia. According to the Philadelphia Inquirer, now this was 2019. This was a year after Krasner took office. The conviction rates in Philadelphia for illegally carrying a firearm fell to 49%. In 2017, 63% of those gun possession cases ended in a conviction. After Krasner took office, again, that number dropped below 50%. And Krasner said at the time, back in 2019, said, if we're all going to focus on the questionable notion that everybody who possesses a gun is spending their time looking at data on what conviction rates are, then we're going to miss any solution that's actually going to be real and effective. Yes, he said, enforcement is a small part of the story. The big part of the story is not that, not enforcement. The big part of the story, according to Larry Krasner 4 years ago, not enforcement of the laws, either the existing laws that are in place or future laws that Krasner wants to see in place. He said, quote, the big part of the story is this city's chronic failure to invest in prevention that the community is crying out for. That's where we have to go. So 4 years ago, Larry Krasner, listen, I don't want to throw all these people in jail or in prison just for possessing a gun. That's not the answer here, right? The answer is we got to invest in community programs. We got to try to get to the root causes of why people are picking up guns and why they're using them to commit violent crimes. And here we are, 4 years later. There's an absurd interpretation of the Second Amendment that's to blame here. Yeah. Krasner's office, again, and this goes far beyond 2019, has continually taken this approach. I would call it, yes, a soft on crime approach. Ben Manis wrote about this at Broad and Liberty last August. And I want to quote, this is a lengthy piece. I'll link to it at the website, but I want to quote a couple of passages here. Because last year, Krasner was blaming the revolving door of the criminal justice system on judges, on police, again, on everybody but his office. As Ben Manes reported, Krasner's statements have since been refuted, not only by members of the judiciary, former prosecutors, and victims of violent crimes committed by those released and undercharged by his office, but by charging documents showing that his office has seemingly dropped charges on numerous felony cases where violations of bail or probation may be triggered. These documents show numerous suspects arrested for violent crimes while on bail and or probation for recent felony crimes, with little or no requests by the district attorney to revoke bail or violate probation and remand these violent criminals to jail. Manes wrote, this trend exposes how Krasner has made good on campaign promises of decarceration and ending cash bail in America's sixth largest city. Furthermore, Manes wrote, as Krasner has frequently joined other Philadelphia politicians in demanding a set of arguably unconstitutional municipal gun laws, records indicate that his district attorney's office has not effectively prosecuted suspects charged with numerous existing gun laws. Yeah, again, we need more laws. Why aren't you enforcing the ones that are on the books, you schmuck? Now, Manes also quoted the predecessor to Larry Krasner, Seth Williams. And according to Williams, he had, quote, dedicated staff responsible for working with probation and scheduling Daisy Cates hearings, which is simply not happening now under Krasner. He said even scarier is that Krasner is dropping new charges that may result in a violation, even on gun cases. Manes wrote that Williams' statement is supported by charging documents obtained by Broad and Liberty, which show gun charges inexplicably null prost, i.e. dropped by the district attorney after charging. This includes those of Marcus Whitehead, who, again, as of last year, currently an at-large suspect wanted for an August 6, 2022 murder in North Philadelphia. Despite a recent criminal record, Whitehead was out on bail for another felony charge of possessing an illegal gun at the time of the murder. Despite a criminal record, his bail was set at only $20,000 and then was reduced to no money required, and he was released on charges that were later null prost. So in other words, the prosecutor didn't fight to keep this suspect behind bars. The judge ended up letting him go on no bail, and then the prosecutor just dropped all the charges altogether. Manes went on to say, meanwhile, in Philadelphia, the Krasner administration is celebrated for reducing the population of suspects in prison and or on probation, despite the fact that violent crime has risen to historic proportions on his watch. This is how defendant Dominique Perkins can freely walk the streets of Philadelphia following numerous gun, narcotics, assault, and other charges. His May 2022 gun charges were null prost by the DA's office, even though he has illegal gun charges pending from 2021. Then there's Jeremy Redd, who has a lengthy criminal record, which includes numerous armed robbery and illegal gun charges, and who was just arrested on July 31st, 2022 for stalking and violating a protection from abuse order, whose illegal gun case was inexplicably null prost on May 26, 2022, despite recent narcotics priors pending from 2019. I understand why Larry Krasner wants to complain about the Second Amendment, because it deflects attention away from his, I wouldn't even call it failure to prosecute, because it's not like Larry Krasner is incapable of doing his job. He's making a conscious decision not to bring these cases forward. He is making a determination that this isn't the best way to address violent crime in Philadelphia. And yet, when we see a high-profile incident like this, what's Larry Krasner's immediate response? We need more laws. Bullshit. Pardon my language. What we really need is for Larry Krasner to do his damn job, to prosecute violent offenders. Now, listen, I'm a Second Amendment guy. Should it be a crime to possess a firearm without a license? I don't think so. No. So I'm not dinging Larry Krasner for failing to prosecute simple gun possession cases, although it is a law on the books. I think it's a law that should be wiped off. But Larry Krasner isn't just null processing gun possession cases where, let's say, somebody who is legally eligible to purchase a firearm or to possess a firearm simply didn't have a concealed carry license. He's taken individuals who've been charged with violent offenses and time again, sending them back out on the streets, dropping the charges altogether in many cases. Now, Larry Krasner can blame the Second Amendment all he wants for the number of guns in this country, but it's Larry Krasner who is responsible for putting violent career criminals back out onto the streets of Philadelphia time and time again. And he does not get to absolve himself of the blame for Philadelphia's high violent crime rate when he is turning a blind eye to the perpetrators of those crimes because he'd rather go after people like you and me and stop us from exercising our right to protect ourselves from the criminals that Krasner puts back on the streets on a regular basis. Yeah, I think I'm actually going to reach out to Krasner's office, see if he'll come on the show. I highly doubt that he will. But I do reach out to the other side on occasion. In fact, a couple days ago, I reached out to a Brady campaign to see if Chris Brown would come on the show. Not even a response, which I was kind of expecting would be the case. But you know what? I will reach out to Larry Krasner's office. I'll see if Krasner's willing to come on and do an interview talking about the Second Amendment and talking about his record as a prosecutor. Let's see if he's willing to have this conversation with somebody who's not just going to nod their head in agreement and may push back on his tired, stale rhetoric that, again, seeks to absolve himself of his responsibility to deal with violent crime in Philadelphia. All right. Before we turn our attention to today's armed citizen story, our good deed of the day and our recidivist report, when you make choices about where to put your hard-earned dollars, you know you're supporting not only the company that made the product, but the values and the principles of that organization too. It's easier to flip a switch against a company when they blatantly conflict with your values, but do you make an effort to do business with the companies that support what you believe when you can? Do yourself a favor, give my friends at Defender Ammunition a shot. These guys are veteran-owned and operated. Every person on their staff is military connected. They are huge supporters of our military community, backing causes that are actually making a difference in the lives of those that have served. In fact, all of the profits from Defender Ammunition's logoed gear goes directly to the charities that they back. This company is one to support. Their ammo is top-notch. Their customer service is amazing. What other shipping department actually writes handwritten thank you notes to their customers? Give Defender Ammunition a try. They've thrown us a promo code to use through the end of the month. That code is Bearing Arms, good for 5% off your order. Just BEARINGARMS. Trust me, once you give Defender Ammunition a shot, you won't be going anywhere else. Check them out at defenderammunition.com. All right, so let's talk about today's recidivist report. Now, I had another story. I ended up writing about it for the website. Case out of Seattle. Guy charged, well, he's not been officially charged with murder yet, but prosecutors are telling the judge, yeah, that's coming. But he is a suspect in a July 4th stabbing, 28 prior arrests, including a felony conviction or guilty plea just last year, where a judge sentenced him to time served for felony assault, beating a guy over the head. But you can read that story at bearingarms.com. Instead, I want to highlight, this isn't exactly a recidivist report, but it is, I think, part and parcel of the problem that we're talking about here, the overarching problem of Democrats or even, I won't even say Democrats. Well, yes, I will. It is a bipartisan problem, but I would say that Democrats are the ones who primarily are calling for gun control while refusing to address the underlying systemic issues in the criminal justice system and the mental health system as well. So in Forsyth County, North Carolina, you know, a lot of jurisdictions around the country have shortages of police officers. Seattle, actually, no exception to that. Philadelphia as well. But it's not just a lack of police officers that we're seeing now. We're seeing a lack of public defenders in a lot of jurisdictions. And that is leading to charges being dismissed because, again, you're entitled to representation, right? You have a right to representation. And you are seeing cases that are stayed and continued and continued and continued. And sometimes individuals are sitting in jail for months on end and their cases aren't going forward. And ultimately a judge steps in and says, listen, we're violating this person's rights. The case dismissed. Get out of here. That's a problem. We're also seeing a problem in the correctional facilities in many jurisdictions in the country. In Forsyth County, it appears to be especially bad. Documents revealing challenges with detention center office at the Forsyth County Jail cite them instead of jail. That is the recommendation from the sheriff in Forsyth County because they don't have the staff at the jail to house all of the inmates that they need. As of April 19th, as of June 29th, the jail in Forsyth County, North Carolina, had 116 vacant positions out of their 250 staff member allotment. So almost half of the correctional officers that the facility is staffed for, those positions are unfilled. And again, that's going to have a spillover effect outside of the jail. As a WXII reported, there are some other issues in other counties. Guilford County, 267 total detention officer positions, 72 vacancies. Randolph County, 100 detention officer positions, 14 vacancies. But Forsyth County appears to be the worst in the state at the moment, at least according to WXII. They reached out to, they filed a Freedom of Information Act, and they found a document, apparently. Charlene Warren, a captain in the Commander Security Services Division for the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, reached out to the Winston-Salem Police Chief William Penn about jail staffing and limiting jail intake. In the email, Warren said that Penn would tell his staff, quote, if a citation can be issued instead of coming to jail, they would cite them if possible. So it's not a determination at this point of whether, again, someone is dangerous enough that they need to be taken to jail. It is a staffing issue. And whenever possible, cite the person rather than taking them to jail. The email from Warren also added Chief District Judge Victoria Raymer to the mix. Warren said she spoke to Raymer, who agreed to allow the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office to cancel weekenders, which is a term that describes individuals fulfilling their sentence by basically going to jail on the weekends so that they can, continue working during the work week. The judge apparently voiced concern to this captain about canceling weekenders entirely and allowed, quote, anyone who wants to go ahead and spend their weekend in jail to have the opportunity to do so. They also apparently canceled a practice called quick dips, where individuals who are not in compliance with probation are taken into custody for 2 to 3 days and then let go. I mean, again, I have issues with that. To me, if you're in violation of probation, there should be, again, serious consequences for that. But again, not possible right now with the staffing levels in Forsyth County. Even the quick dips apparently are too much because it's putting too many people behind bars. The county can't handle it. Now, again, when we see these types of endemic problems, they don't have the emotional resonance, first of all, that if we ban guns, everybody will be safer, right? But this is how the real world functions. It doesn't take the Second Amendment out of it for a second. I don't think we really can, but just as a thought experiment, take the Second Amendment, put it aside for a second. So you've got the ability to put any gun control law in place that you want if you're a gun control activist. You still have to deal with enforcement. And the left is at odds with itself. They want all of these new possessory offenses on the books, but they don't want to see anybody go to jail, right? The whole goal is decarceration, abolish the prison system, defund the police while putting these new laws in place. How does that work in the real world? Look at Philadelphia. You get your answer. Today's Armed Citizen story from Pennsylvania. Larry Krasner might have thoughts on this story as well. A shooting victim charged after she was struck in self-defense, according to Pennsylvania state troopers. A tip of the hat to Red State's Jeff Charles for bringing this story to my attention. Mount Carmel woman shot in the leg last Friday has now been charged with aggravated assault after state police say she struck a woman with a blunt object, a floor squeegee. 52-year-old Melanie Sands-Brosh faces felony aggravated assault charges. State police initially responded to a shooting at a home there in Mount Carmel just after 4:30 on Friday morning. Police said they encountered what they believed at that point to be the victim in this case, Sands-Brosh, who was being treated for a gunshot wound to the leg. Sands-Brosh taken to a local hospital. She was interviewed by troopers. She said she was at the home because she wanted to retrieve her property from the residents. She had a set time to be there from the homeowner. She also told troopers she had a key to the house. So then troopers went and they interviewed the woman who they believe shot Sands-Brosh. And she said, yeah, I was inside. I heard banging and windows breaking, so I grabbed my handgun. And then I ran across this lady who threatened to kill me while she hit me with this blunt object. Woman told police she fired a round from the gun in self-defense, and then she fled from the home, banging on doors in order to get help from neighbors. Now, obviously, that's a very different story than what Sands-Brosh told the state troopers, so they went back to the hospital, interviewed her a second time. And that, according to authorities, when she allegedly recanted her original account of the incident and admitted to troopers, okay, yes, I broke out a kitchen window. No, the owner of the home did not tell me a time to come and get my stuff. Probably would have been 4:30 on a Friday morning if she had. Sands-Brosh also allegedly admitted to swinging the floor squeegee at the woman 2 to 3 times. She admitted she hit the woman before she was shot in the leg. And based on that second interview, as well as the testimony of the woman who shot Sands-Brosh, prosecutors decided not to file charges against the homeowner and instead filing aggravated assault charges against the individual they originally believed was the victim in this case. Finally today, our good deed of the day, in the right place at the right time, we'll able to do the right thing. Man, we're talking about the shortage of correctional officers. Well, there is one prison in Louisiana, Tallulah, Louisiana, the Louisiana Transitional Center for Women. I think they've got an opening because a correctional officer resigned or was fired, I guess, depending on how you look at it, last month after agreeing to take care of a baby that was about to be born to one of the inmates. That baby has now been born. The woman has now been released from prison, and the now former correctional officer says that she has new plans for the future. Roberta Bell, fired from her job as a correctional officer at the Louisiana Transitional Center for Women in Tallulah last month. I guess it was in May. After agreeing again to raise the child of an inmate. Since she was fired, she has been waiting for Katie Bourgeois to be released, and that happened on Tuesday. In fact, Bell was waiting for her with Bourgeois' baby inside her car when she was released, and Katie was able to reunite with her son, Kason. Bell talked about why she decided to do this. She had apparently gotten to know Bourgeois a little bit as a correctional officer. Bourgeois was concerned that when her baby was born, she was going to be taken by Child Protective Services. Her mom was going through a divorce. There wasn't any family member to care for the child. Bell says she reached out to her supervisors and said, hey, listen, there's this situation going on here. I would like to care for this child for a couple of months until this inmate gets out. Apparently, she says she didn't hear anything back until a couple of days before the baby was due. And then her supervisor said, in essence, no, if you do this, going to have to fire you. And she said, okay, I guess that's it. And so she left her job. She started to watch over this newborn child. A GoFundMe was set up by Bell's family to help care for the baby and put food on the table for Bell. 3 weeks later, $12,000 had been donated. And when Bell was asked about this, the support from the community, she said, I couldn't have done it without him because it was hurtful. Being, given my job, it was hurtful, but at the same time, it was a good thing. Yeah, I so love to make people happy. I love to see people happy because I want to be happy. And that baby deserves a life. He deserves a good life. Belle said that she accepts the baby that she's cared for the past couple of months, now going to go live with his birth mom. She said, I love him dearly, but it's her baby. And I want her to have her baby because you know what? That baby's going to bring joy to her and her mom. Now, Belle says she's not going back to work as a corrections officer. Instead, Roberta Belle has plans to build a recovery home in Vicksburg, Mississippi for women like Katie Bourgeois, who were just released from prison, to help them transition back into the community, hopefully not wind up back in prison, repeating these same mistakes that put them there in the first place. Bourgeois says her goal is to get on her feet, get a job, and embrace her new role as a free mother. And I just think this is a really amazing story. You know, a woman with a career, you know, could have stuck it out, could have gotten her pension a few years from now, but was so concerned about this young child. And probably, you know, again, having seen some experience with CPS and kids that are raised in those foster homes, took it upon herself to take that child in for a couple of months. And again, on a temporary basis, permanently losing her job to help somebody out on a temporary basis. That really is, I think, a truly good deed that is worth acknowledging. So, Roberta Belle, in the right place, at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing for others. Thank you very much for your very good deed, and best of luck to you in the future. That is going to do it for this edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. I do appreciate you being a part of the program as well. We'll let you know if we hear back from Larry Krasner's office when we join you tomorrow. Because, yes, we do have a Friday show. You know, that's what happens. We took Tuesday off. We're going to make it up on the back end of the week. So we'll see you back here tomorrow with another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. Between now and then, however, don't forget to check out bearingarms.com. We're keeping you up to date on all of the latest Second Amendment news and information from all across the nation. If you like what you see, also encourage you to become a VIP member. Just go to bearingarms.com/subscribe. Use the promo code GUNRIGHTS, and you can get a significant savings on your VIP membership. As our way of saying thanks for showing your support. We're going to give you exclusive content you won't find anywhere else because, well, your support matters, and it truly makes a difference. So thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Until then, be well, be safe, and be free.